my name is Alison McLean. I'm an IVP worker at Wild.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm also a P worker at Wild.
I'm Katie, and I'm just a regular old worker at Wild.
Hi, my name is Jane, and I'm a regular worker at Wild as well. And today we're here to talk about the drivers of violence against women who have intellectual disabilities.
Acknowledgement of country. We want to acknowledge the Turrbal and Yagara people of Meanjin. They are the traditional owners of the land we are on today. We would like to pay our respects to their elders past and present. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
So before we get into the drivers of violence, I just want to lay some groundwork and talk about the rates of violence. So we're going to start with a little quiz. So when we talk about all the women survivors of domestic and family violence, what percentage of them do you think would have a disability of any type? So you might want to pause here and write down your answer before we give the answer away. Okay, so the answer is 40%. So that's a pretty high percentage. That's nearly half of all women victim survivors of domestic and family violence having a disability of some type. So we're talking about responding to domestic and family violence, working with women with intellectual disability or some type of disability is actually a core skill. It's something we should be doing every day. So the next one is, what percentage of women with intellectual disability have experienced sexual abuse? So you might again want to pause here before I give you the answer. So the answer is 90%. This stat is quite shocking, really, 90%, and it's not even the worst of them. Some other reports go anywhere between 70% all the way up to 99%. So that's pretty terrible. And I think when we talk about drivers of violence, that is what's responsible for this statistic. It's nothing to do with women who have an intellectual disability particularly. It's the society that we live in and the way that systems work. So women who have a disability, any type of disability, are twice as likely to experience domestic and family violence compared to women who don't have a disability. But women with an intellectual disability specifically are 3 times more likely than women with a physical disability. So we're talking the really, really pointy end here, that not only do women with intellectual disability experience more violence than their non-disabled counterparts, but even more so even than just women with physical disability.
Why do women with intellectual disability experience violence more? Sexism, when men are treated better than women. This can mean that people think it's okay to hurt women and girls. Ableism, when people think that women who do not have a disability are better than people who have a disability.
Yeah, so sexism and ableism both drive experiences of violence for women who have an intellectual disability. And this information has come through from the Changing the Landscape resource that was put together by Outwatch. And we'll be discussing this throughout the presentation today. This is the framework that we've used for our project. And has helped us in terms of our planning and I guess planning how we will challenge these drivers as we do our work, as we do the project.
Changing the Landscape, Outwatch.
Okay, so this is a bit of a more detailed look at the 2 drivers that we're talking about here. So gender inequality and ableism. So ableism is what we'll be discussing in more detail today. So you can see listed 4 different drivers, different ableist drivers. We will be going into each of those today and sharing how through this project we have aimed to challenge these drivers. But when we're talking about women who have a disability and their experience of violence, we need to remember that women are impacted by both gender inequality and ableism. So that means that their experience might be very different to women who don't have a disability. So this might be their experiences of violence, their experiences of seeking support after violence, and also their recovery as well.
So originally in the project, we did focus just on women with intellectual disability, but later in the project, we expanded that to include non-binary participants as well. So you'll hear we use women a lot in this presentation, but we also acknowledge that people who are non-binary are still impacted by gender inequality as they are still a marginalized gender, and they kind of fit in with some of those intersecting drivers of violence down the bottom there. So just keeping that in mind as we talk through today.
Okay, so the first ableist driver that we're going to get in today is negative stereotypes about people with disabilities.
Thinking negative things about people who have an intellectual disability that are not true.
The much easier way to understand that driver. So before we go forward, it's worth thinking about any negative myths or assumptions that you hold about people with intellectual disabilities. We all hold negative assumptions about groups that we don't belong to. It's human nature. We all grow up in a society where those views are repeated and seen as normal. So it's really normal that we hold them. But it's worth having a pause if you're up to it to think about what kind of things come up when you think about people with intellectual disability. What kind of myths or assumptions might be you holding?
What we did, we looked at myths, stereotypes in our podcasts, video and animation videos. Having paid disability superior, oh gosh,
That's all right.
can I restart that sentence?
Yeah.
Having paid peer workers challenges myths about people with intellectual disability not being able to have meaningful employment. Naming our participants as the experts challenges myths that people with intellectual disability can't contribute meaningful to conversations about violence prevention.
Yeah, so these are all some examples around how we try to challenge myths. The myth around stereotypes, people who have an intellectual disability. So we discuss myths quite a lot in all of the resources that we've developed. And this was because the experts from the workshops were saying that these were really apparent in their lives and had huge impacts for the way they experience the world, but that also drove experiences of violence. The second one Alison is talking about is having paid peer workers. So both the peer workers are on our project team and have been with us. They help with they are doing all of the planning, facilitating, decision making. And this really challenges that myth that people with intellectual disability can't have employment or can't hold employment, because that is absolutely not true. So you may have seen that I keep talking about these experts. So we call all of the participants in the workshops the experts. And Alison, did you want to explain why that is?
The experts, the participants, and in one of the workshops, people basically said we're the experts because we should be teaching the officers and services about why we need to be treated. And that's how we came up with the name, the experts.
The lived experience.
The lived experience experts and all lived experiences of lives.
Yep. So we will be talking about the experts quite a bit in this presentation and in some of our other presentations. So they are lived experience experts, and because they have the knowledge, and they, as they've said, should be the ones asking the questions.
Myths video. We did myths video. We asked the experts questions and asked the lead author. And it's really good to ask them questions because it makes them feel welcome, comfortable, and they had their say.
Yep. So all of the questions Christy asked our experts were around myths, how they impacted people's lives. So if you're interested in having a bit of a look, you should already be on the website. So there should be a video tab up the top that you can go to. There are a number of different videos that we've done throughout the project. So please have a look if you're interested.
And if you're not on the website, it's and you think you're the expert.com.
And
Yes.
you can also Google searches.
Yes.
This quote is from the women and non-binary people that were the experts that are involved in the project and the Listen Up project. Because of how I am treated, I want to change the way people treat other people with a disability. Being a part of the video helps change things. We are all adults here. We need them to understand we're not children and we shouldn't be treated like children. We need to be treated like adults. We all are human. We are all people just like everyone else. It's just we have an ID.
Absolutely. So touching on some of those myths we talked about.
A lot of the myths and men.
So ableist driver number 2 is accepting or normalizing violence, disrespect, and discrimination against people with disability. What does that mean, Alison?
It means, Katie, seeing violence against people with a disability as normal.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did we do about it? We talked with the experts about healthy relationships. So these were the workshops we did right at the beginning. Did you want to talk about what we did in those workshops?
Yeah, we got a lot of women and non-binary people together, and we talked about what makes a good and helpful relationship. We even took these workshops all the way to Rocky in Queensland.
Yeah, all over the place. We talked about good and bad relationships, what they look like, how to get help if you're in a bad one. We also made a lot of resources, like we've talked about before, to show everyday acts of discrimination to stop making violence against people with intellectual disability seem normal, okay? So it's not just the violence we're talking about in DV relationships, but the violence that people experience in the form of discrimination on a regular basis.
That's correct. And the only resource that Katie and Jane knew about was posters at the beginning.
Yes, Alison was much more creative than us from the get-go. So what do the experts think of this?
If people are abused their whole life, they might think it's normal. People need to tell them that you're not being treated right. They might need help to learn what is healthy and what is not healthy.
Yeah, a lot of people talked about how before the workshops, they thought a lot of how they were treated was normal when it was in fact violence. Because they'd experienced that type of behavior from a really young age.
That's correct, Katie.
So the ableist driver 3, controlling people with disabilities, decision-making and limiting independence.
Controlling people who has a disability, not letting them make decisions.
So what did we do to try and challenge this? So the first thing that we did is that Katie and I, it was important for us to be checking our own assumptions regarding people's ability to make their own decisions. The second thing that we have done throughout the whole project is ensuring that people in the project, so that's experts and peer workers, have a huge say in the decisions about the project and how it works. Christy, did you want to talk a little bit about your role as a peer worker in making decisions about the project?
It's really good to make my own decisions. I get involved in making my own decisions if I give advices as peer worker too, because if they don't know what to come up with, they'll also ask me what I think I should come up with, and I'll give them my decision, and we all think about it and we'll come to agreement together.
Yeah,
As a peer worker and workers.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that was really important was to encourage decision making in a lot of different ways, because it can be really difficult for people to feel comfortable to give feedback or to participate in decision making. What do you think, Christy?
Yes, it can really hard to do a good feedback or a bad feedback, because we don't know what to put down or what to say, because we don't know if we get in trouble or get pushed out saying you can't come back. But after they explained to us why we got to do the feedback, I felt more comfortable, and I do the feedbacks all the time.
Yeah. And I think we noticed as well for the experts in the group, at the start of the project, it was a little bit tricky for them to feel comfortable to be involved in decision making around what they wanted for resources and what they wanted to say, because a lot of people with intellectual disability don't have a lot of practice and aren't encouraged to share their thoughts and share their opinions. But we found that over the course of the project, which has been over 2 years now, the experts are feeling increasingly confident to share their opinions, to tell us what they want. And I think you can see that as well in the resources that we're making. People are quite comfortable saying, this is what I think, this is what I want, this is what's not okay.
And we also tell them there's no silly answers and questions.
Yeah, so it's important to try and make people feel comfortable.
Comfortable.
Yeah. So supported decision making is something else that we did throughout the project. So basically, supported decision making is helping people to make decisions for themselves. So Christy, when we talk about this, I know you talk a lot about the importance of someone giving information that's easy to understand and going over it with the person.
Yes, or if we don't understand it, we can let them know and we'll go over it a different way.
Yeah,
Or make a plan up for another decision.
yeah.
But we mainly make it ourselves decision, or we make a plan together.
Yeah, so that might involve talking about what might happen if someone makes a certain decision, but ultimately supporting that person to make their own decision for themselves.
Yes, and it's very important to let them make their own decisions, because if you make it for them, they're going to be upset and angry and frustrated, and it will make them not to come back to you again.
Here's another quote from the experts. I want people to know that even though we have an ID, we know what we are doing. I feel that we can make our own decisions. All right, maybe it might be a mistake that we learn from it. I hope that we can get our message across. People are going to see the videos and think, this is good. They need to listen to this. We want what we want. We want people to know what we want. We want people to listen to what we want. We might have an ID, but we all have the right to make our own decisions.
Yeah. So, ableist driver number 4, social segregation and exclusion of people with disabilities. What does that mean?
Living out people with a disability.
So this came up a lot when we were talking to people, this feeling of being excluded or not included in things. So we made animation videos that helped other people understand what it's like to have a disability and how it's important to include people with a disability. So I know, Christy, in your animation video, you talked a lot about being on public transport and feeling like people were ignoring you or not paying attention to you.
Yes, or they sit there and stare at you,
Yeah.
or they move away from you and make fun out of you.
So a lot of people talked about this and how it was important to let people know about that, and to show that that's, you know, a way of not including people and making them feel like an outsider. A lot of the work we did was in groups, so helping people meet others who have similar experience. And experts said that meeting new people was actually one of their favorite things about the project.
Yes, it's really good to meet new people, because then you feel comfortable talking to more people and it helps you to speak up.
We were able to give our ideas. We listened to one another. We worked together to work out whether something was good to do. We worked towards a group decision. They will probably look at them and think, we have done a good job working on all of this. It will make people understand that we want to be included.
What stopped violence?
So another really important part of our project was finding out from the experts what they think needs to happen, so women with intellectual disabilities stop experiencing violence at the really high rates that they are. So we interviewed all of the experts after our workshops, and our interview question was, what is one thing you think could help stop women with disability experiencing violence? And what did they have to say, Alison?
If other people treated us respect and same as other people without a disability, we all need to be treated with respect. Someone needs to listen to them and take them seriously. Sometimes you get pushed to the wayside. This could be police, services, or court people. It can be very daunting talking to people about it.
Yeah, so when we were putting the booklet together, we went through themes. So the themes of the different things that the experts were telling us from their experiences. And a huge one was that people did not feel listened to in their lives at all. Alison, this was a huge theme. What do you think?
it was a massive thing because people think that people with an intellectual disability don't have a voice and can speak up for themselves.
Yeah, people were telling us that people think they make up stories,
Or they're not telling the truth.
or they're not telling the truth. Yeah, so these types of experiences were experienced by a lot of the women that we spoke to, which is really disappointing.
Just to make sure women are treated normally, fairly, and that they are talking at their level of learning and not treated like a child. Give them a chance to try and explain.
So this is another example of one of the myths that we talk about, I think, in the podcast, and we also talk about this in our animation videos. This idea that adults with intellectual disability are like children. Alison, I'm interested to hear what you think about this myth.
This is actually the myth I was involved with. Video, and it's interesting because we're not a child, we're an adult, but people think we're a child in an adult's body, but we can stand up for ourselves.
Yeah, and so we're hearing people's experiences of being adult women who have adult lives and being spoken to in a baby voice or being treated like a child.
So here's some more quotes. Christy, did you want to read them out, or
Yeah.
do you want me to?
If they had the right people around them, I think the NDIS workers need training, more agents out there.
Yeah, so this one all around that same theme of if people had the right support, if people had the right support either through their families, their communities, or through workers, that people feeling like even when they did experience violence or they did experience something bad, there was no one really to turn to, or there's no one really to talk to them about their experiences or to intervene earlier.
And half the time, because we didn't know there was service out there we could go to.
Yeah, people not knowing where to go or who to turn to. And this one says, give people with a disability a go. No one wants to give you a go. No one wants to know you. It seems like you don't get anywhere when you've got a disability. So kind of touching on that same thing around exclusion and people not feeling included, not feeling like they get a go, not feeling that they're part of the conversation.
And in fact, when people feel like they're being put down.
Yeah, and I know you talk a lot about this, Christy, around
Yeah.
not feeling that you're given a go.
Yes, and because we got disability, it doesn't mean we can't do anything. We can do stuff. It might take us a bit of time, but we can do it. And we shouldn't look at people as they got disability. We just got something extra special.
Thank you very much for watching and listening to this video. Look forward to having you participate and also watch more videos in the future.
Thank you for watching and listening to us. Please share our videos and we'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Thank you.